Hi everyone, welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. A few days ago, we had the story about the prisoner who was released by mistake, and the government's response was to catch him and to deport him. Now, in our last podcast, we spoke about this. I was saying that I felt he was a bit of a victim, being kicked out of prison, nowhere to go. Subsequently, a mass media campaign to find him, and they caught him finally. A few days later, they deported him. And we're going to listen to an interview now with a government representative about what happened when they tried to deport him. Now, this interview, unfortunately, doesn't come across well. The speaker, the representative for the government, her name is Sarah Jones. She seems a little bit confused and unable to answer the questions that Nick Ferrari is putting to her. Let's have a listen to this interview, and it's interesting to hear what's happened.
A couple of questions concerning the deportation of this Ethiopian. There seemed to be mixed reports. One was that he was going to try and launch yet another legal challenge. The other that he became disruptive on the plane. Which is it?
So the operation took the decision in that moment to offer him money, which I know is quite galling and sticks in the throat a bit with all of us, I would say. They took the decision because he was on a commercial flight. We do not spend taxpayers' money on military planes or private jets or anything like that for these people. We put them on commercial flights with people who are going on their holidays or going to visit relatives. They took the decision that in order to get him on that plane, they would give him the £500 so that we could get him out of the country. That saved us thousands of pounds. If we hadn't been able to get him on that plane, then he would have been held for another day. There would have been new flights had to be booked. It would have cost £10,000. So the choice was 500 versus 10,000. And I think in terms of use of taxpayers' money, that was the right decision to make.
Minister, my question was, did he become disruptive, or did he say he would launch another legal bid? Which was it?
Well, it could have been a combination of the two. The situation, I don't know the conversation that he had with those people, but I know that the decision was made to give him that money.
How do we get to a figure of £10,000?
Because he was escorted by 5 people to make sure. Obviously, these are normal flights with normal people, so you have to make sure there are people with
but
this
why
person.
5? Minister, I've spoken with David Wood, who was the Director General of Immigration Enforcement at the Home Office. You might know or don't know of him. The usual complement is 2. At the maximum 3. Why 5?
I couldn't tell you why there were 5 in this case. He's obviously a nasty criminal we wanted out of the country, and we wanted to make sure he left. So that was the decision that was made. If we had had to rebook those flights, it would have cost us thousands of pounds. And we made.
But you're not answering. Normally it's 2, sometimes it's 3. The complement here was 5. You don't know why it was needed so many.
Decision.
I mean, this is someone who was compliant, wasn't he?
Well, this is an operational decision that I wasn't part of. I'm sure they made a judgment based on the best information that they had and their probable much experience in this situation. So, we are increasing the number as well, I should say, of foreign national offenders who we are deporting. We have sent about 5,000 back to their home country over the last year. That is an increase, and that is a good thing.
You said 5,000 this year.
Over the last year, in terms of the number of foreign national offenders who have left these shores, who we have sent back, and I think
so
most
often I hear the figure 35,000.
That's people who have no right to be in the country.
I see. So that's 5,000 of the 35,000.
These are people who are convicted criminals.
I see. Okay.
Right, so as you can hear there, the immigrant was deported and he was given £500, and just at the end of that interview he was asking How was he given that? Was he given £500 cash? And she explained, just as I stopped the clip, that he was given a gift card, a card that can be used to buy things worth £500. Now, there's conflicting reports. Some people say that he was causing a problem, and he said he was going to create a big problem on the flight unless they paid him. I think that's unlikely. I don't know. And another report says that it's just money that they offered him anyway, that all people who are deported are usually given £200, £300 anyway. And he, for some reason, was given more, but it's not really clear why. Now, she referred to him as a nasty criminal, which for me seems rather strange. I mean, yes, the man is a criminal. Yes, he was convicted of some heinous crimes. There's no doubt about that. However, to call him, instead of his actions, nasty, raises questions. There's another report, which I was reading earlier, and maybe we can have a quick glance at it, where the Home Secretary, another one of our government officials, Shabana Mahmood, she calls him the vile sex offender. Vile, the last time I looked, wasn't a legal term. So both of these women are judging this man. They're not judging his actions, they're judging him. Now, I have to be honest and say, there are some people in the world that I don't particularly like, but I can't say that they're bad people. I just don't like what they do. Let's just take a random example of Donald Trump. I can't say he's a bad man. He must be good at something, after all. He is in a very powerful position, and he does seem able to hold down a family. But I don't like his actions. I don't like what he says or does, but that doesn't make him a bad man or a vile man. It just makes his actions vile. I think you can see the difference. So this is the problem I have with our politicians who often make comments of a moral nature. And this is something from our history, how we quite often try to destroy people not by questioning their actions, but questioning them and their right to be. This is something which British people have a habit of doing. Thankfully, that's changing, but I think it's something which we inherited from our Victorian times, this good man, bad man. And it's very sad when we see it in action, as we saw it there. Let's just have a quick look at another newspaper report about this character. It is from our TV news, the TV network. One of them is called ITV, and this is their news service. Deported Ethiopian sex offender given £500 to leave UK after his wrongful release from prison last week. And we're not going to read all of this because this has all been covered already. Okay, so they're defending their reasoning for giving him so much money. We turned down an application from him to use a previous government scheme, is what they're saying here. The alternative was slower, more expensive for the taxpayer. So they're obviously still framing him as the prisoner who has to be kicked out. If they had used the process, which he wanted, it would have included detention, a new flight, and fighting subsequent legal claims. Now, I have to say, if someone threw me out of prison, and I had to sleep rough for a night, and then they started a manhunt to find me, yeah, I'd be quite annoyed. I would almost certainly be taking legal action against the government. So for them, they wanted rid of him very quickly. He's in Ethiopia now with no right to return to the UK. Let's just read a little bit about what our government has said. She said, this is Shabana Mahmood. She said, last week's blunder, that means mistake, should never have happened, and I share the public's anger that it did. And then she says, I have pulled every lever to deport Mr. Kibatu and remove him off British soil. I'm pleased to confirm that this vile child sex offender has been deported. Our streets are safer because of it. And then she says, if you come to this country and commit crimes, we will remove you. Okay, so of course, he did do some really vile actions, but my problem is calling him and his character vile. His actions are vile, but I don't think it's right that he should be described in this way, because it's inciting hatred, and we have a law against that. Even if you're a prisoner, you still have basic rights. His actions were vile, but I honestly can't say he was. In fact, towards the end, he was clearly a victim, being kicked out of prison and then forced to return. Anyway, they've started a major inquiry to find out what's happened, what went wrong, and of course, it says here, I'm clear that a single release in error is one too many, which is why we've launched this independent investigation. And I know that somebody in the prison service has been suspended, but as the prison service pointed out, this is not just because of one person making a mistake. There was a whole catalogue of errors because the prison system is under so much pressure. Over the last 7 days, there have been 2 mistaken releases from His Majesty's Prison Pentonville in North London and another at HMP Durham, the Mount Prison in Hertfordshire, and from Reading Crown Court. No prison officers have been suspended over the other 5 releases, but the one who made the mistake in this case has been suspended. So you see, this is a huge thing. And as I was saying a moment ago, according to government figures published in July, 262 prisoners were released in error in the year up to March 2025, a 128% increase on 115 in the previous 12 months. So this really is bad, really. Anyway, well, that's the end of that then. They've deported him. They gave him £500. Some reports are saying so that he would make a promise not to cause a problem to holidaymakers that he was on the same flight with. Also, 5 people accompanied him. 5. So that also would cost a lot of money, but that's not being mentioned here. So that's a story about Hadish Kebatu. I have to say, I mean, of course, his actions were vile, but I feel very sorry for the man. I mean, he didn't deserve to be kicked out of prison, left sleeping on a park bench somewhere in Finsbury Park for a night. And of course, because he was the center of the media's attention, who framed him only as a sex offender, he unfortunately was deported rather quick, much quicker than he should have been, without giving having been given the opportunity to appeal. I mean, clearly he had some kind of legal advice there, but they gave him £500 just to get him on his way. And this is, I think, part of the problem of our immigration system. That is, getting people to leave can be a major legal challenge, because they have a right, of course, to go to court and say, wait a minute, you can't do this to me. But in his case, he was going to be deported anyway. But that happened much quicker because of his mistaken release. So that's the end of the story for Hadush Kibatu. Very sad, but I hope he finds some peace wherever he goes. And that's it from me. I hope you've enjoyed this. Let's talk soon. Bye.